We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes, but in the meantime, please introduce yourselves in the chat. Okay, before we get started, I'm going to head off to one of our interpreters, Flavia, to get us oriented around language justice.
Thank you so much, Saka. So these are the interpretation instructions. For the purposes of this gathering, we will have simultaneous Spanish interpretation. If you want to listen in Spanish at this time, connect into the booth. This is located at the bottom. Click where it says more, then click language interpretation, and you can choose Spanish, and you will be able to listen in Spanish. Un recordatorio que si quieren escuchar en español, en estos momentos, por favor, vayan al canal de español, está ubicado abajo de todo. Hay 3 puntos que dicen more, opriman ahí y opriman interpretación de idiomas y español, y ahí podrán escuchar en español. Muchas gracias. Thank you, Saka. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Flavia. So hello, everyone. We're really excited to be here with you, so many of you tonight. There's 700 right now and counting. It's great. The number is going up every second. It's ticking up. We're so excited to have you here with us. And Ramadan Mubarak to everyone out there who's observing. I know I just broke my fast a little over an hour ago, and so that's why you have the energetic Saqib rather than hangry Saqib, who you don't want leading this call. And for our Muslim friends farther west, I'm sorry. I know this call is right up against iftar time for many of you, but we really appreciate you joining us. My name is Saqib. I am with Acre and Bargaining for the Common Good, and I'm so stoked to welcome you all here tonight on behalf of Mayday Strong. We're here tonight to build a drumbeat towards a powerful day of no work, no school, and no shopping on May 1st. We're totally inspired by our friends in Minnesota, who pulled off a historic day of economic disruption on January 23rd and forced the Trump regime to end the ICE surge. All across the state, 1 million people participated by either not going to work, not going to school, not shopping, or all of the above. We know 75,000 people marched through downtown Minneapolis in negative 40-degree weather. Over 700 businesses closed in solidarity. So on May Day, we want to take the Minnesota model national to stop the authoritarian takeover. We'll come together as workers and community to throw a cog in the wheels of the system that benefits the billionaire oligarchs at our expense. So if you haven't already, please go to workers.fyi/commit, workers.fyi/commit, and sign the Mayday No Work, No School, No Shopping pledge. We'll also drop that link in the chat once the chat settles down. But first, we know this is a heavy time, right? The Trump regime is waging war on Black, brown, and working class communities here at home with the ICE surges, the attacks on the social safety net, and the attacks on our democratic system. At the same time, the regime is also waging war on the people of Iran. I woke up this Saturday at 4 a.m. to eat sahur before the start of my fast. I looked at my phone and I saw text messages from family in Qatar saying there were missiles flying over their homes. That's how I learned that we had attacked Iran. Right, on Saturday, people across the Middle East broke their fasts while bracing for the bombs dropping other countries, and that's been true every day since. Between the US and Israeli attacks on Iran, Lebanon, and Palestine, and Iran's retaliatory strikes, there are nearly a dozen countries in the Middle East embroiled in this reckless and immoral war of choice by Trump. So our first speaker today will talk about what's happening in Iran and how folks are organizing to stop the war. Please welcome Yasmin Taib from Empower Change Action Fund.
Great. Thank you so much, Saqib and friends, for having me and giving me the opportunity to join you this evening to talk about the disastrous war with Iran. I'm Yasmin Taib. Sorry, it's starting early. I'm trying not to get emotional. It's been a long day. So we're unfortunately in the midst of yet another catastrophic war. started by the US government in the Middle East that has now spread to, as Saqib noted, to more than 10 countries in the region. And, you know, for me, I'm just thinking, have we not learned anything of 25 years of war in the Middle East? Trump has not made the case for war with Iran to Congress or the American people. He has made several shifting and inconsistent rationales and doesn't know what the objectives are for justification for war. And in fact, his own Secretary of State noted that they were pushed into this war of choice by Israel. One thing is clear: Congress has not declared war and has not authorized this war. Trump knows that there has been no credible intelligence, neither prior to last year's US strikes, nor prior to last year's Israel attacks on Iran, or even now, that Iran has made a decision to seek nuclear weaponization or that nuclear weaponization was underway. In fact, Iranian officials have claimed the exact opposite hours before Trump delivered the State of the Union address, lying to the American people. Last year's strikes did not advance US national security interests. They undermined them, as has this illegal and unauthorized regime change war. Let's be clear about how we got here. President Trump unilaterally withdrew from Obama's Iran deal in 2018, which was working, limiting Iran's nuclear program peacefully, and the Iranian people were not suffering and starving as a result of the current economic sanctions. Trump imposed a maximum pressure campaign on Iran during his first term, economic warfare to essentially strangle Iran's economy, which resulted in the collapse of Iran's currency at the end of last year. I mean, that's what prompted the protest of the Iranian people over their economic struggles. US and top Israeli security experts even confirmed that the JCPOA was working. Groups like J Street, Plowshares were huge proponents of the Iran deal. Trump's own Secretary of Defense, his Secretary of State, his national security advisor during his first term, all told him not to get out of the agreement because it was working. I mean, we're talking about the former director of Mossad and the former chief of IDF military intelligence called the US withdrawal of the JCPOA in 2018 as a tragedy and said what postponed Iranian progress towards achieving nuclear weapons was the nuclear agreement and not military action. The recent diplomatic efforts between the US and Iran, including last year, were making major progress. We saw it. It would have resolved Iran's nuclear program effectively, transparently, and peacefully, especially given Iran had agreed to all of the US's demands and went further in their obligations and commitments under these current negotiations than they ever had during Obama's nuclear deal. But what did Trump do and Israel do? They simply bombed Iran once again in the middle of negotiations to launch this catastrophic war of choice. I mean, the Trump administration is pursuing an illegal and unconstitutional and reckless war with Iran that will make the US and the region less safe and will kill countless civilians in Iran. Schools, hospitals, residential buildings are being bombed. Except today, in his own words, he said death and destruction from the sky all day long. I mean, we have over 1,000 Iranians that have already been killed, including 165 elementary school girls who were bombed Saturday morning simply because they were going to school to attain an education, the one place outside of their home they're supposed to feel protected and safe. We know the American people do not support this war. 75% of voters oppose war with Iran. And the Iranian people inside Iran, including my entire extended family, also oppose military action. Iranians want the sanctions to be lifted. They want to be able to have a family. They want their dreams realized, just like the rest of us. Unfortunately, proponents of regime change and war have for years worked to sabotage diplomacy with Iran. I mean, what we've been doing right now, including with our colleagues and friends on this call and Saqib, We're urging members of Congress to stand with their constituents, condemn the unauthorized strikes on Iran, and co-sponsor and vote for the bipartisan Kana Massi Iran War Powers resolution that's happening tomorrow. I mean, we're running a joint action that so far has garnered over 130,000 letters to Congress calling for ending this unauthorized war. I mean, tonight, unfortunately, and the reason obviously I'm a little more emotional than usual, it's been a very long day. We just had the vote in the Senate on Senator Kaine and Paul's bipartisan Iran War Powers Act, which unfortunately failed. Nearly all Republicans, and including Democratic Senator John Fetterman, voted to continue this illegal and unauthorized regime change war that will kill countless Iranians, destroy ancient protected historic sites and religious sites, and make the US and Americans less safe as a result. I mean, supporting these war powers resolution is the only way for lawmakers to show that they stand with their constituents, for the Constitution, and for an end to all illegal and unauthorized military attacks against Iran. Just today, Center for American Progress estimated that the illegal Iran war has already cost American taxpayers $5 billion. After the war powers votes, I hope that as a movement, we must pivot and refuse any taxpayer money to fund the carpet bombing of the people of Iran. The administration is going to ramp through a $50 billion supplemental for this illegal war in the next few days that they should instead be using for healthcare, education, and not war crimes. And we must unequivocally, as a movement, collectively organize to oppose it. Thank you so much for all that you're doing for our working families, for our immigrant communities, and so grateful to be in this fight with you.
Thank you so much for the important work you're doing, Yasmin, and our hearts really, really are with you and your family in Iran and all of the Iranian people. As soon as the attacks on Iran started, the Mayday Strong Rapid Response Team sprung into action. We developed a tool to demand corporate America oppose the war. So here to tell us more about it, we have my wonderful friend and colleague, Bahar Talou from ACRE Bargaining for the Common Good.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for those powerful words, Yasmin. My name is Bahar Talou. I'm with ACRE Bargaining for the Common Good. I'm an Iranian American. I was born in Tehran. I still have family in Iran, family we haven't been able to get a hold of since the US-Israeli attacks began. My family left Iran when I was 8 years old to escape the repressive regime. Since then, we've been trying to get the rest of my family out. We know firsthand how brutal the Iranian regime is, and we know the bravery of the Iranian people who have been rising up to fight for human rights and democracy. But we also know bombs don't bring peace and democracy. For Trump, this isn't about freedom for the Iranian people. It's about appeasing the Israeli lobby and raking in big bucks for big oil, big tech, and other American corporations. Trump wants to reinstall a monarchy in Iran, the same monarchy that was put in place to protect Western oil interests after the democratically elected prime minister nationalized the Iranian oil industry. And let's talk about who's going to profit from this war. Silicon Valley tech firms provide the AI and data that powers military occupations from Palestine to Minneapolis to attacks on Iran. Palantir's algorithms tell Israel which homes to bomb in Gaza, just like they tell ICE which Black and brown people to abduct in our communities here at home. We know Palantir will also play a critical role in the leveling of Tehran and cities all across Iran. Last week, AI firm Anthropic was in the news for taking a stand against the Trump administration and refusing to support mass surveillance of US citizens. But in the same statement, they say that they're more than willing to surveil people in other countries because apparently their rights don't matter. OpenAI, Amazon, Google, we know they'll all bank massive military contracts for the war as well. Silicon Valley will be red with the blood of the Iranian people. All this money will go towards killing people in Iran, while here in the US, we are told there's no money for schools, healthcare, and housing. There's always money for war, but never for communities. As Mayday Strong, we are calling on American corporations to pick a side. Are they with the American people or with Trump, Netanyahu, Hegseth, and the other warmongers? Will corporations like JP Morgan Chase, Target, and Anthropic fight for American taxpayer dollars to be spent building schools, hospitals, and homes here in the US? or will they let our money be spent destroying schools, hospitals, and homes, Iran? Please head over to bit.ly/workers not war to send letters to American corporations demanding that they stand with the American people and oppose this war. More than 350,000 letters have already been sent to corporate executives since we launched the petition on Saturday. And we don't want to just stop at letters. We need to do in-person delegations and actions to put pressure on these corporate bigwigs to come out against the war, starting with the tech sector. Let's do a poll. Would you be interested in doing an in-person delegation or action on executive board members of the big tech firms profiting from war? Should you see a poll on your screen? Give you a little bit of time to vote. Incredible. Wow, amazing. Lots of interest. So now I need everyone who clicked yes to head over to bit.ly/tech-and-war and let us know that you want to be a part of local in-person actions. Again, if you said yes, please fill out the very short form at bit.ly/tech-and-war, and we'll follow up with you about local actions calling on tech firms to oppose the war. Please take 10 seconds and do this right now. Thank you.
Thanks, Bahar. Again, thank you for sharing your powerful story. And so folks, if you haven't already, please head to bit.ly/workers not war to send the letters to the CEOs, telling them to oppose the war, and bit.ly/tech-and-war to say that, to express that you're interested in doing in-person actions targeting corporations around the war. And again, go sign the No Work, No School, No Shopping pledge at workers.fyi/commit. So we're going to pivot here a little bit. Next up, it's my pleasure to introduce one of my favorite teachers, President Randi Weingarten with the American Federation of Teachers.
I can't start my video, so somebody has to start it for me. There it is. Thank you. Thank you, Sakib. And I want to just make sure that people know we sent a letter in support of the War Powers Resolution and have been lobbying it, as has, frankly, I was a part of J Street delegation, has been lobbying it the whole time for the last several days, because as our sisters said before, this is, it's not just an illegal and an unjust war. It is just the amount of death and destruction is terrible. There's been absolutely no dialogue with the American people as to what this was about. And the JCPA, which was done by the Obama administration, would have and did do all the things that President Trump says. And it is, so we are with you in every single way. And this is from a union who has also fought for the voices of the Iranians in Iran right now who have opposed the regime for all of these different years. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that was a position that our union has taken, and we are engaged with all of the activists on this who are just and just so absolutely justifiably angered, including, by the way, we have teachers on the military bases who we represent in so many areas in the Middle East that we have been, who are in harm's way right now, not just the troops. So today, many of our members talked about this, but they used March 4th, which we did as well last year, to March 4th the things that we know we need in a proactive way, using that day to actually talk about what do our kids, what do our communities, what do our families need. We are all part of so many no coalitions like No Kings and like no unjustifiable wars. But there are many times that we as a community have to be about what it is that we want America to be. And we want America to be a place of opportunity for all, not just the billionaires, a place where our children have the schools they deserve, where patients have the hospitals they deserve, not the kind of cuts that happen in terms of Medicaid or the cuts that happen in terms of SNAP. And so, in the midst of all the other fights that we do, including the fight to get ICE out of Minnesota, the fight to rein in ICE, the fight to, all the lawsuits about all fighting and contesting all the abuses of power, we thought it was really important to take today and to say, let's envision the world that we want, the world that we should have political actors who are running for office in November. This should be the world they espouse, a world where workers have opportunity, a world where workers have a decent wage, where one job is enough, a world where an FEC actually questions Apollo instead of letting it go off scot-free, a world where where Target actually stands up with Minnesotans and says, ICE out of Minnesota, a world where we have funding for special needs kids, a world where we have funding for community schools, a world where we have funding for career and tech ed and for the different kinds of pathways, a world where we have more project-based instruction and less screens, a world where workers and their families have preeminence in this country. And that's what today was for all of us, or for many of us. We had hundreds of different events, but we also had lots of webinars in education this year, as we are also doing all of the actions on May Day and all the actions on March 28th and beyond. So I'm just really honored to be with all of you as we not only fight back, but we fight for a world that working people and our kids deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. And we're all excited to fight for that world alongside of you. That was such
Thank
a
you.
beautiful vision you laid out.
Thank you.
So folks, we have over 1,200 people on the call right now. Like I said, the number is growing and growing. I know some folks are raising their hands. If you want to ask a question, you should use the Q&A tool. At the bottom of your screen, you should see Q&A. If you don't, click where it says more, and then you should be able to see Q&A. So if you use that tool, we have folks ready to answer the questions as they come up. We know that if you want to stop an authoritarian, we have to knock down their pillars of support. So Senator Nina Turner will talk about how we're doing that with the Target boycott.
Thank you so very much. It is such a pleasure and honor to be here with all of you, and definitely great to be on with President Randy Weingartner, to Yasmin and everyone who spoke before me. I mean, I definitely felt what she was saying. To the people of Iran, justice-minded Americans stand side by side with you. We cannot war our way to peace. And what happens over there happens over here. What happens in Gaza happens over here. What happens in the Congo or Haiti or Sudan, it happens over here. The same spirit and the same power that would allow children in this country to go to bed hungry every night does not mind bombing an entire school with babies in it, whether it is in Iran or whether it is in Gaza. It is the same power, it is the same energy. And this is why we collectively, the workers, have to mount up our power, not just to march in the streets, but to ensure that there is a consequence and a repercussion for any elected official and any corporation that does not pick the side of humanity, that does not pick the side of justice. You know, I'm vibing with a lot of freedom fighters that have gone through the ages, but one in particular was on my heart tonight, and that was Eugene Debs. And Eugene Debs has said a lot of powerful words, but these right here just stuck with me. He said, the master class has always declared the wolves. The subject class has always fought the battles. The master class has all to gain and nothing to lose, while the subject class has had nothing to gain and all to lose, especially their lives. And so the cavalier attitude, besides breaking the law, both international law and the Constitution, it is just a cavalier attitude that the Trump administration has and all the folks that work with him about the death of other people's people. We can hold more than one thing in our minds, or in other words, more than one thing can be true at the same time. And so while we can say that the Iranian government is brutal, truth, we can always also say that we can't war our way to peace and that the United States of America nor Israel had the right to do what they are doing right now. Big ups to Congressman Ro Khanna and Congressman Massey and others who had the intestinal fortitude or the ovarian audacity to push back against this president. Let history reflect those who were on the right side and those who were on the wrong side. So let's talk a little bit about the Target boycott, which has been the most successful boycott in modern history. The first most successful boycott happened in Montgomery, Alabama. It was the Montgomery bus boycott, where for over 381 days, Black people and their allies stood side by side and decided they were not going to get back on that bus until Black people were treated as equals. Now, when the bus company changed their mind, it wasn't for moral reasons. It wasn't because they all of a sudden woke up and said, oh my God, we've been doing Black people wrong. No, it was their pocket. It was the money. And that is the same thing that we are showing Target right now today. I just got an article today or yesterday from Pastor Jamal Bryant, who's a part of this with me, and also Tamika Mallory from Until Freedom, that shows that the shares for Target is still going down to this day. We are in talks with them, and we are going to have an announcement. Again, big ups to the teachers for joining us side by side. I don't know if President Stacey Davis Gates is on here either, but again, part of the teachers union for standing side by side with us on this. But we are going to make a big announcement on March the 11th. But the reason why the Target boycott worked is because millions of people across this country, they heard the cry and they decided that they were not going. Now, yes, there are many corporations beside Target who are not patriotic, who are inhumane, who grovel at the trough of money at the expense of everybody else. But we had to start somewhere. And we started with Target because Target made a very seminal promise to the Black community after the murder of George Floyd. What Target did in that moment was the right thing to do. And then you fast forward to 2025, they had the pure unadulterated gall to bend to bigotry. And so when you bend to bigotry after making such a pronounced and profound promise, there has to be consequences and repercussions. So to everybody who is on this call with us, everybody all around this country who stood side by side with us for this boycott, thank you so very much. Now, we need to expand that beyond Target. So the May Day Strong is beautiful, and it is following in the tradition of workers who came before us when they were fighting for the 8-hour workday. Sometimes we forget that was not always the norm. And I know for so many workers in this country, that is still not the norm. But because people had the ovarian audacity and the intestinal fortitude to stand up to the bosses, to let them know that you're not about to work us to death. We are back in that same moment right now. So not only do we have to withhold our money collectively on May Day, beautiful thing, no shopping, all of that stuff. But we have got to figure out a way, just as we have done in the Target boycott, to make this sustainable. And that is why the idea of the general strike is, in fact, the ultimate thing that working class people from all walks of life, no matter what we agree on or disagree on other issues, what we must agree is that 911, what is your emergency? We have been robbed, and we have been robbed of millions of dollars of our wealth as working class people by a ruling class oligarchy that does not care about us, our children, our children's children, and there must be a consequence for this. There must be a consequence for Senator Fetterman, who betrayed the people who voted for him. He must be primary. And all of these feckless elected officials, and I don't care if they Democrat or Republican, you got to pick a side. Either you are for justice or you are not. Either you are for the working class or you are not. Either you believe that working class people in this country deserve universal health care or you do not. We ain't talking public option. Either you believe that you must stand up and make sure that Social Security remains solvent so that the elders who have paid into that get that money or you do not. Either you believe that we should have child care in this country that doesn't cost an arm and two legs or you do not. Either you believe that people should be able to be housed and that we should not allow corporations to buy up the houses and drive up the costs, or you do not. Either you believe that the people in the United States of America deserve clean air, clean food, clean water, a living wage, or you do not. Either you are for justice or you are not. And so what I am saying to this May Day coalition, that we don't have time to play games with these fools anymore. And I do not care if they have a D or R behind their name. The initial that I care about more is how they comport themselves when it comes to lifting up working class people in this country. You know, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once talked about how they got rugged determination for the individual, and they got socialism for the ultra wealthy. Now I'm paraphrasing them, but that is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. So if we are ready to marshal our forces, we should see this as phase one of this fight, because only all that we love is on the line. That's all. And so whether it's our sisters and brothers in Iran, or our sisters and brothers in the Gaza, or our sisters and brothers in the Congo, or our sisters and brothers down the street, the same corrupting forces that don't care about us in the United States of America lack the capacity to care about anybody else's people. And that is why we must rise up and use the most precious resource that we have, and that is our labor. So I look forward to continuing this righteous fight with the organizers of May Day Strong and others all around this country, and dare I say the world, when workers stand up and make the demand and use our ultimate resources. We must make a demand on corporations, and we must make the demand on politicians. And we gotta let these folks know, you're not getting back in office, you're gonna continue to try to play with us. My last thing is that my grandmother always said that you could put truth in the river 5 days after lie, but truth gonna catch up. And the truth has caught up today that there is a two-tiered system in this country, one for the ruling class and one for the rest of us. But guess what, sisters and brothers, family and friends and frenemies, there are more of the rest of us than there are of them. So we must organize, mobilize, plot, plan, strategize, to quote my brother Killer Mike. And once we do all of those things, we must continue to fight, because evil never sleeps. So good can never take a vacation. So let's take this mighty coalition that we are building, get in there and plot and plan, and carry this thing from 2026 to 2028, phase one. And anybody who has not had the intestinal fortitude or the ovarian audacity to call these atrocities, enumerate them, what they are, we have no use for them. The lesser of two evils is still evil. And so if we do find ourselves, God forbid, going with the lesser of two evils, let us not delude ourselves that the lesser of two evils is still evil. I am looking and fighting for an opportunity for us to, at least one good time, vote for the best, vote for good, and not continue to vote for the lesser of two evils. I'm telling you something, I am amped up, I am ready to go. As you can see at all times, Sister Turner is ready to go for all that is just, all that is right, and all that is good. So again, March 11th, stay tuned for an announcement as Pastor Jamal Bryant, Leader Tamika Mallory of Until Freedom, and myself, Senator Nina Turner, We Are Somebody, we will be having an announcement about where we are with the Target boycott. Use our Target actions as a model for how we can force these corporations, because of money, because they don't care about justice, force them to do the right thing by all that we love. You got to know that hope springs eternal. Not everything that is faced can be changed. As the great James Baldwin once said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. So we are ready to face and slay these demons.
Wow, Senator Turner spitting fire. Damn, I would follow you to the end of the world. Let's give her some love in the chat. Yes. Wow. So, like I said, if you're fired up and want to get involved, please head over to workers.fyi/commit, sign the Mayday Pledge. Also text Solidarity to 58910 to join, to be approved, to be kept posted on upcoming events and to get involved. Again, that's text Solidarity to 58910. So last month, Mayday Strong launched our affordability agenda. I'd like to welcome Max Page, president of the Massachusetts Teachers Union, the Massachusetts Teachers Association, to tell us about the affordability agenda. Thank you, Max.
Thank you, Sakab. I'm really pleased to be here. My name is Max Page, and I am president of the Massachusetts Teachers Association. We're a 117,000 member union of education workers in Massachusetts public schools and colleges. So last year, Mayday Strong inspired the largest set of protests on May Day in American history, with thousands of events across the country and millions of people, all of you on this screen, no doubt, hitting the streets to protest the Trump administration. And we have to continue to stand against the attacks, the criminality, and the outright violence being perpetrated by this administration. But we also have to, at this very moment, as we just heard so beautifully, lay out and fight for a different vision of the future for working people. So a week ago, Mayday Strong released the Real Affordability Agenda, a policy and resource manual to put a good life for everyone back within reach, out into the world. And I think you'll get a link in the chat to access that. It's a comprehensive plan to build a movement for multiracial democracy, change the economic rules of the country, and put the makings of a good life back within everyone's reach. And you can please take that, read it, and distribute it widely. This is not a dream exercise. It is instead, as the title suggests, an agenda for a clear, achievable vision for society where workers' fundamental needs are met, where our work is valued, and where our communities can thrive. It includes specific proposals for activists to employ in campaigns in every state in the country. It includes resources and examples from cities and states that are making progress on this real affordability agenda. The key areas, just very quickly, include, of course, affordable housing, corporate rent gouging, real estate wealth concentration, private equity landlords are the primary drivers of the housing crisis, and we are going to demand targeted regulatory and financing reforms, strict limits on rent increases so people can stay in their homes, dedicated taxes on luxury property sales and high-value assets to fund affordable housing production and preservation, and large-scale development of social housing models like much of the rest of the world has that ensure permanent affordability and resident governance. We seek to establish housing as a public good secured through democratic control and progressive revenues. Second is good jobs. Wage stagnation and declining worker power are on the rise despite surging corporate profits. And we're going to demand structural reforms to secure dignified employment. We're going to demand living wages aligned with productivity growth and a jobs guarantee program to put displaced and unemployed workers in good jobs. We'll call for universal paid leave, the repeal of anti-union laws, strong worker organizing protections, curbing employer misclassification tactics, and raising the minimum wage closer and closer to the actual cost of living, at least $25 an hour, and an end to all sub-minimum wages. And then thirdly, affordable housing, universal needs. We're going to demand universal access to essential services by eliminating cost barriers and corporate profiteering. What does that mean? Fully funded universal childcare with fair provider wages, free school meals and expanded food assistance alongside anti-gouging measures, debt-free public higher education, free comprehensive health care for all, fair, free, reliable transit, fully funded, equitable public schools, and publicly controlled utilities with progressive pricing and assistance programs. And then finally, and very importantly, the real affordability agenda has an answer for that inevitable question. How are you going to pay for this economically and racially just society? The answer is clear, and it's a core part of this May Day Strong movement. We're going to win that world by taxing the very wealthiest people and corporations in our nation, people who report the report shows, the real affordability report shows, have become stunningly more wealthy. So along with being president of the Massachusetts Teachers Association, I'm also a steering committee member of the Raise Up Massachusetts Coalition, which helped pass the Fair Share Amendment, a small surtax on annual income over $1 million. And you can see more about the Fair Share Amendment at fairsharema.com. I think that link will also go in the chat. The success of Fair Share has been remarkable. Over the first 3 years, Fair Share has brought in more than $6 billion. This past year alone, Fair Share brought in $3 billion. And from whom, you might ask? 25,000 households in a state of 7 million. That's not the 1%, that's like the 7/10 of 1% of the richest people in the state. And what have we spent that $6 billion on? Universal free community college, universal free school meals, universal free regional buses, more money for childcare and early education, for vocational school construction, for higher ed building repairs, for massive investments, roads, bridges, and public transportation. This is just in the first few years. And with the awful cuts coming from the Trump administration and the Republican Congress that are hitting every state, we are better prepared to protect the investments we made. Fair share revenues are the one bright spot in the state's budget discussion that's taking place right now. And if you can't sleep because you are worried about all the millionaires leaving, personally, that's not what keeps me up. 3 years in, there are more millionaires and billionaires in Massachusetts, and they are wealthier than before Fair Share. And that study that showed that was before the big ugly bill passed, and the Republicans and Trump gave every single one of those dollars back to our billionaires. Yes, the millionaires and billionaires in Massachusetts got a $3 billion tax cut from the big ugly bill this year. In other words, we have just begun to make a good start in a fair and more prosperous Massachusetts. And it also tells me that our state has to start again and demand a wealth tax and continue the work of building the society we want. And what's exciting is that activists around the country are following our lead. Many of you may be involved in these fights in Washington State, Maryland, California, New York, Illinois, New Mexico, Arizona, and on and on. There are movements, some are moving very rapidly to model what we did in Massachusetts to institute their own millionaires tax. In fact, we need this to happen in every single state. We need a 50-state tax the rich movement, and that's a core part of what I think May Day Strong stands for. So the bottom line is this. What our experience in Massachusetts shows is that the world described in the Real Affordability Agenda is possible. We just need to retrieve the wealth that working people created and use it for the common good. So all of us here at May Day Strong, unions, community groups across the country are going to demand that the wealthiest individuals and largest corporations finally contribute their fair share to the society that makes their success possible. We can't afford a good life for everyone. It's simply a matter of working people claiming that world, the future that we all deserve. So now I'm so glad now to teleport us from Massachusetts to California. And I'm pleased to pass this to my NEA union brother, David Goldberg, so he can share the remarkable We Can't Wait campaign the California Teachers Association is engaged in right now, including a wave of righteous strikes. Take it away, David. Thanks.
Oh, honored to join you all. In fact, I'm joining you today from a hotel, getting ready for another strike tomorrow. This strike is the first strike in the history of Twin Rivers Union outside of Sacramento. We've had now 32 of our districts who have taken strike authorization votes, 32 of our unions across California. And for a little context, California, 1 out of 8 students in this nation are in school in California. California is the 4th largest economy in the world. We just passed Japan if we were our own nation. And yet the conditions under which students are learning and educators are teaching is despicable. It's decades of disinvestment and balancing the budgets on our backs. And so we're really taking very seriously this vision that Max and others are putting forth collectively, that if we're going to get that, we're going to have to fight for it. And so we have, like I said, 32 districts representing 70, and we have 1,000 districts, I should say, across this state. But 32 of them have signed on to what we call the We Can't Wait campaign and spent the last years really learning, aligning their contracts around competitive salaries, around safe and stable schools, and around fully staffed schools. And not only aligning their demands, but also making core commitments to doing deep organizing from bottom up at our school sites. Because all the visions we put forth, workers aren't going to believe in any vision that we can win anything unless it feels real and they really have real victories. And our members are feeling it right now. In the richest state and the fourth largest economy in the world, we survey our members every year. 86% of them can't afford the cost of living that keeps going up. 83% of them are concerned about affordability of the most basic things. 83% can't live anywhere near where they work. 75% of them can't afford the out-of-pocket healthcare costs. You know, this is a profession that's 3/4 women, and we are teaching students who have been devalued by our system. And again, to Senator Turner's point, every single one of these politicians in California is Democrat on a statewide level. And yet they haven't seen fit to lead a kind of movement and a campaign to invest in people and working people and our students. So our members are telling something else to this survey as well. 83% of them said they're willing to strike to improve pay. And 70% of them are willing to strike around counselors and nurses and smaller class sizes. In California, we are fortunate. People before us, like my grandmother, who went on strike in the 70s when it was illegal, fought for us to have the right to strike. But it was very narrowly defined around salary and healthcare. And so when we'd strike, the districts will have seen these greedy teachers, all they care about is salary and healthcare. But what unions are doing now, and as part of this We Can't Wait campaign, is they're fighting around special ed, and they're winning it. They're fighting around sanctuary schools like they did in San Francisco, and they won that. They're fighting around services and counselors and nurses around community schools like they did in LA and Oakland, and they're winning it. So we're putting forth a vision around how to actually struggle around what Max and others are putting forth as well. And there's beauty in the struggle. It is going to be a beautiful thing to be on the strike lines tomorrow. And the last thing I'll say is that we know that we're creating the conditions. A lot of these districts are going to, in May 15th, you can have layoffs. So very cynically, after we win some of these strikes, districts are saying we're going to have layoffs. So we're looking at May 1st as another chance for places where districts are trying to lead with these cynical layoffs to say we're all going to be out against these layoffs. Again, connecting our role as educators, our class sizes, and the students' learning conditions and our working conditions. So we're in California, we're happy to be part of this. And we're trying to do our best to provide a model of what it looks like for working people in a state like California, really push and say, this is what resistance really looks like. It's not just photo ops. Real resistance means taking care of healthcare for Californians, of education for Californians, or looking after the most vulnerable Californians and looking after working people. So we're honored to be part of this. We're honored to be part of this struggle, and we look forward to continuing to work alongside all of you on this call.
Thanks, David. The We Can't Wait campaign is just so inspirational, and thank you for leading that. And yeah, we're all in solidarity with y'all as y'all deal with the retaliation and everything else that's happening with the layoffs being threatened. So next we'll hear from Shamika Parrish-Wright, the Executive Director of Vocal Kentucky, who will talk about what's at stake in this movement. Shamika, you're muted.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, apologies. Good evening. My name is Shamika Parrish-Wright, and I serve as a Louisville Metro Councilwoman in Kentucky and as the Executive Director of Vocal Kentucky, Voices of Community Activists and Leaders. And I wanted to talk about how Kentucky is a beautiful state with strong communities, hardworking people, and deep traditions. We don't welcome war, ICE, or Trump's bad policy because bad policy kills. Kentucky is also a place where too many families are struggling just to make it. And I know that struggle personally because not long ago I was homeless. I raised my family while living in poverty. I also depended on Section 8, housing assistance, food assistance, and even the pacemaker that keeps me alive was paid for by Medicaid. Programs like these didn't make me weak. They gave me the chance to survive long enough to fight for something better. And today I'm using all my roles in community and all my decision making hats to make sure other families have the same chance. But my story is not unique in Kentucky. Across our 120 counties, people are working hard but still falling behind. But my story connects to so many people because people aren't, it's not because they're not trying, it's because the economy is stacked against working people. This is the richest country in the history of the world, built by the labor of working people from every neighborhood, every background. Yet today, most Americans can't cover $2,000 emergency. Black Americans still live shorter lives because of inequality, and workers' wages have barely moved while CEOs collect massive paychecks. At Vocal Kentucky, we are organizing people across the state to fight for housing, health, dignity, and justice. Because we know that change doesn't come from the top down, it comes when working people organize together, as we've heard all night. We have an economy designed to reward greed and punish working people. Economic disruption is a must, especially in the gateway to the South. At Vocal Kentucky, we're organizing low-income people across Kentucky to end AIDS epidemic, the war on drugs, mass incarceration, and homelessness. We stand in solidarity with all of our Mayday Strong organizing allies, and we're proud to be a part of People's Action, a national network building real power for everyday people. So today, we're calling on billionaires and corporations to pay their fair share so families can afford housing, so people can afford their utility bills, so communities can have health care, schools, and opportunities that allow families to thrive. Kentucky deserves better, working people deserve better, and when we stand together across race and region, we can build a future our families deserve. I thank you for the opportunity to share about Kentucky. Don't write us off. It doesn't matter if we're seen as a red state. We got work to do, and we stand in solidarity with all of you.
Thank you, Shamika. I actually lived in Kentucky for a little bit in Lexington and just wish the vocal had been there then so we could have organized and build power. So we're in the home stretch now, just one more speaker. But before I turn it over to the next speaker, I want to again remind you to sign the No Work, No School, No Shopping pledge at workers.fyi/commit and text solidarity to 58910 to get involved. So next up, we have Tim Hernandez, who will tell us about the No Kings March coming up on the 28th.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Tim Hernandez. Thank you all for having me in this space. I just want to name the work you've been doing, over 1,000 events last May Day, Labor Day actions across the country, and now building towards May 1st. That's the kind of organized, sustained worker power that makes everything else possible. Labor is the backbone to our movement, and No Kings on March 28th is stronger because of the people in this room. Right now, President Trump is trying to rule through violence, repression, and fear, but he's underestimated working people. 7 million of us showed up in October. That was one of the largest single-day nonviolent actions in U.S. history. And since then, the administration has only escalated, sending mass agents into neighborhoods, supercharging the budgets for these raids, all while working people can't afford groceries, rent, or even afford to think about healthcare. They have billions for repression, but they're cutting the protections the rest of us depend on. So we're not going to roll over while our families are under attack. On March 28th, we're coming together again, nationwide, because we know we can overcome this when we unite. If there's an event near you, sign up, go. Bring your coworkers, bring your neighbors. Every No Kings event is hosted by local community members trained in de-escalation to make sure that these are powerful, lawful, and disciplined actions. You will not be out there alone. And if you don't see an event near you, start one. Become a host. You don't have to be a professional organizer. We have the training and support to help you put on something real in your community. Whether it's a march, a rally, or a gathering, it counts and it matters. Our movement just keeps growing. 7 million in October, ice out for good protests in freezing cold weather, I can only imagine what March is going to look like, especially when this administration debuts a new horror every day. So I ask that you find an event or register to host one at nokings.org. Working folks built this country. We know how to take care of each other. And on March 28th, we're going to prove that in America, we have no kings. And with that, thank you so much. And I appreciate being in space.
Thank you, Tim, and really thank you to the entire No Kings team for bringing us all together again in 3 weeks. Just can't wait. So, all right, folks, just a quick recap of the action items. First, please go sign the No Work, No School, No Shopping pledge at workers.fyi/commit. Then head over to bit.ly/workers-not-war to send a letter to corporate America CEOs telling them to oppose the war in Iran, and text solidarity to 58910 to get involved. Like I said at the start of this call, this is a heavy time. The Trump regime is moving quickly to cause as much destruction as possible, as fast as possible. But I believe we can stop them because people power will always prevail. So buckle up and let's go do this. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evenings.